to my channel and welcome to part 1 of off-roading with the Winnebago Ekko. When I purchased my rig and I was doing research on the off-road capabilities of the Winnebago Ekko, I had a real hard time finding real-world experience, finding people that actually took these rigs out there and pushed them to the limits. And I went into it with the expectations of having limitations in the places that I would go to. And since then, it's been now 2 years, and I've had the fortune to take this rig in places that probably 99% of Winnebago Ekko owners would not take them. In Baja, in Montana, in the snow, in the sand, boat ramps, you name it. And I was very fortunate to see the limitation and the performance of this rig in real person. I want to share this with you guys because what I have found out is very different from what I had initially researched before purchasing the rig. Part 1 focuses on mods and why I decided to go with a 4.3 Van Compass suspension upgrade, and why I went from a 6.3 to a 4.3. I had a 2025 Winnebago Ekko with a 6.3 on it, and if you guys are following my channel, it caught on fire, and the best thing that came out of the rig catching on fire is that I was able to start from scratch on all my mods, and the only thing that I changed in all of my mods is the suspension. I went from a 6.3 to a 4.3 on my 2026, and I'll talk about that later. And then it will go into the actual DIY of the installation of the suspension. I wanted to do a video for people like me who are not mechanics, and to see if it's something that you guys could tackle in your own normal garage. Step by step, and it's very much targeted to people like me who are not mechanics. So if you're a mechanic, you might get offended when I explain how to safely raise your rig. After doing it, helped by the experts, I would say that if I had watched this video, I would say absolutely I could do it. We'll go into that later, but let's start with talking about mods. There are a lot of Winnebago Ekko owners that buy the rig and then they send it out to get all modded out without really trying it, without really driving it and taking it off-road to see what they really need. And they just put all kinds of stuff from, bumpers, larger tires, winches, you name it. Just to give you an idea of like mods that you put and then you don't use, I've had all kinds of rigs. I've had, the crazy beefy bumpers on a sportsmobile. That this rig was so heavy that I spent more time at the mechanic because things just broke. And I had a winch on my Rebel because I go in the boat ramps that sometimes they're maybe covered in ice or mud. And but the reality is that in the 4 years that I had my Rebel, I never used the winch to self-rescue myself once. Actually, one time that I had to use the winch to help somebody else, the winch didn't work because it sat unused for so long that the connection had corroded. So anytime you do a modifications, just think about, am I really gonna use this? And all of these things are adding weight to your rig. And these rigs are already very heavy to start with. They have very limited payload, and it is extremely easy to go over the limit. If we look at the OCC sticker, this Ekko has 1,263 pounds of available capacity for occupants and cargo. Fill the water, 2 average adults, 2 dogs, and you've already used 876 pounds. That leaves just 387 pounds for everything else. food, clothes, camera gear, camping gear, you name it, and mods. This is what my rig would look like if I didn't have any limits. Adding all this weight to your rig affects your handling, your off-road performance, it affects your gas mileage, it affects your braking time, and it just puts a lot of stress on your rig, and make sure that it's something that you need. In my case, I did drive the Ekko for a little bit, and it was pretty obvious that I needed a suspension upgrade. And I did not do that on my Rebel because I felt like it didn't need it. But in the Winnebago Ekko, absolutely. I think without a suspension, some people have compared it to a U-Haul. I don't think it's quite the U-Haul, but it feels like a boat. It's not very responsive when you're going off-road. It's just has a lot of sway. And it also has really helped driving on the highway. The 4.3 has been a really great package, and the reason why I went for a van compass is because for someone like me who's not a mechanic, who's not someone who's gonna design the suspension and trying to mix parts, it's a package. It's a package that it's proven. A lot of people are using Van Compass, and a lot of people are very happy. And I am definitely not the guy that would start doing all kinds of modifications. And it was a great package, and it was actually fairly easy to install. And now that we've talked about all that stuff, let's talk about the fun things. Let's talk about when I almost rolled Big Betsy, my 2025 Winnebago Ekko with the 6.3 Van Compass, which is just like the 4.3 but adds a 2-inch lift. Like many of us, when I bought my Ekko, I was reading about off-roading with a dually, and since it was my first dually, I was reading what everybody says, that if you're serious about off-roading, you need to get super singles. And so I installed a 6.3 with the idea of getting bigger tires and doing a super single conversion. Fortunately, my friend Chris, who you guys will meet later in the video, who has a fabrication shop where they build race cars with his son-in-law, Cade. And they design suspensions, they design the frame, and they race these cars. So these guys are the experts. And Chris is like, Paolo, do not put super singles on your rig. These rigs are heavy, they're designed to be on dualies, and I've never had problems with my dually, and he has, you'll see his rig later. I listened to him and I kept the dualies, and I am so glad that I kept the dualies. And there are many, many reasons why I love my dualies, and part 2 of off-roading with the Winnebago Ekko is going to go into detail on why I love my dualies. So before you make your conversion, make sure that you see part 2 of off-roading with the Winnebago Ekko. So let's go back to Big Betsy with the 6.3 Van Compass. It became pretty obvious immediately that the biggest limitation of the Winnebago Ekko is not clearance, but it's how tippy they are. If you're driving in Baja, it's probably not that important, but when you are in places like Montana, where there is like side hilling, it becomes an issue, and you start realizing like really how tippy this rig is. Traction with the dually is insane, which makes it even more prone to tipping because you've got so much traction that if you're pushing the rig, it's very easy to roll that thing if you're not careful. So staying low is my recommendation if you have a Winnebago Ekko Espresso. And I'll tell you guys my story on how my first time, because it happened twice, I almost rolled my rig. But I was coming down this, dirt road. I definitely had, a pretty prominent rut in the middle of it. And I tried to stay on the side of it for most of it. And then when I went to cross over through this ditch, my whole rig just started just going. I mean, it just happened so fast. And fortunately, I can't say I was ready because I was not expecting that at all, but I had the instinct of pressing on the gas and turning into my roll, and I hit the other side of the ditch and I was able to save the roll. If I had hit the brakes when that happened, the whole thing would have gone over. So here's the spot. You can follow me here, Susie. I'm gonna stop this really quickly here because my cameraman, or I probably should say my camera woman, had her camera pointing up a little too high. But you can see right there where I tried to cross over. What the camera doesn't really show is how deep and how steep that ditch is. Ooh. We came over to this side, and then when the front tire came down here, this is actually really deep. The whole side of the van tipped over, and it looked like the whole thing was gonna tip over. We're so top heavy. So this was kind of the route I wanted to do, but I don't wanna repeat that. I don't wanna flip the thing over. So I'm gonna straddle this ditch all the way up to this pretty steep section here, and hopefully Big Betsy will do it. We're gonna deflate the tires, the side tires a little bit to have a little bit more traction at an angle, and hopefully we'll make it up. Big Betsy is gonna be put to a test. So this was definitely the way to go up. It's hard to tell how steep it is, but it's really steep. And as I crossed the ditch here, it handled it really well. I had added some wood up there, but the traction never failed. I was so impressed with how it came up, this thing. And as you can see, there's a truck parked there, and it's because they didn't want to drive down that road. That's how bad it looked. They watched me go up this section and then came up and talked to me and asked me what rig this was. They couldn't believe it. This is the other time that things got a little hairy with the 6.3. I had to take a high line. You can see that root up there on the right, and I tried that, but it just was way too tippy, so I ended up having to cut really close to this tree. You can just hear that paint and that window getting scratched. That was very painful. And then as you can see, my front end just started sliding and was able to make the turn, but it just took me way too far into the side there. This is a trail really made for ATVs and trucks, not for a big long 24-foot rig and a trailer. So I got stuck in the ditch and had to work my way out of here. There is again that really impressive traction of those dualies. Never even hesitated. And by the way, I have never gotten a rock between the two tires. And that's your limitation on the Winnebago Ekko. It is not clearance, it is not traction. Traction with the dually is by far better than any rig that I've had. When I asked Van Compass about the difference in traction between a super single and a dually, the response from Van Compass was, well, with a super single you have 4 tires, and with a dually you have 6. So for me, having that traction is incredible because it allows me to go in the snow in places that I couldn't go with previous rigs that I had. It allows me to go in the sand in places that I was not able to go with other rigs. It just has a lot of advantages. And then I like driving down to Mexico and knowing that I have 6 tires instead of 4 when I'm driving those roads with huge potholes. Being able to distribute the weight, and if I hit one pothole with one of the tires, at least I have 5 more tires that might not be in the hole. To go back to the suspension, as you can see, the ride is just so much smoother with the suspension upgrade. It doesn't sway so much. It's so much more responsive when you turn and you drive. Overall, just a much better experience driving it off-road. And also where I've noticed the difference is when you're driving in washboard. Washboard is by far the biggest killer in Baja, and it will rattle your rig to death. Now that we have seen the performance of the Van Compass 4.3, let's go and weight the rig and see how much this upgrade will cost us in weight. And then we're gonna go and meet Chris and Cade. Before we meet Chris and Cade, little public announcement. This week I reached 2,000 subscribers, and last year I started with 0. So in a year I am super thrilled. So thanks to all of you guys who have supported my channel, people who have subscribed. And if you have noticed, outside is dark, it's night, and my beard is longer. It takes me a very long time to put together these videos, between weeks and sometimes months. My whole Sprinters on Fires took months. I do a lot of research and I look for clips to just like make these videos a little more entertaining. So it's a labor of love, and the best way that you can support my labor of love, if you like my content, is by subscribing, liking, and commenting. I pride myself for answering all comments the first 3 weeks. It's really fun for me to get these comments because I get to reply to them, and I've learned so much from you guys. So it's this like interaction between me and you guys. So I love comments, I love replying to them, so please comment. And that's it. That's my public announcement. Let's go and meet Chris and Cade. Hello, hello. So, you here? We just got done putting on the Van Compass 4.3 suspension kit, and I've had these two awesome guys help me. And I met Chris in Baja, and he had by far the coolest rig on the beach. And so I went up to him, of course, because I'm kind of a rig geek, and I asked him who did his conversion, and he's like, oh, I did it. And then I asked him who did his conversion to 4x4, and he's like, oh, I did it. So he did everything, the whole thing. He built the whole thing. And he was very generous. He offered to help me put this thing together with Cade, who is also an expert. And so I've been very lucky. It was kind of my DIY project to see if you can actually do it by yourself, but I ended up having these guys help me out, which was incredible. I'm gonna let these guys talk about, what you guys do.
You've been on camera before. What do I do with my hands?
Yeah, that's always the guess, right?
Put them behind.
Go ahead,
So
you edify.
I've done fabrication and automotive for
And Mick,
years
you're talking
and
to
years
those
and
guys
years.
up there.
Oh, okay. Well, I've done fabrication and automotive for years and years now. I was looking for a space to kind of start doing that, and then Chris had the space, and he's got a lot of background in like the overlander stuff, and he's been around, so we've kind of worked into that now, I would say, to where we're going to try and start developing parts for overlanders and doing different things for people that want to convert either just like a home built van, or if they have like an Ekko, like a nice one like this, and start doing more stuff revolving around that. I've raced off-road for years and fabricated, and just tried to develop all the skills to be able to do stuff like this, and so here we are trying to capture the essence of it all.
Cade's a geometry guy, so if you go deeper into his resume, he can design a suspension for a trophy truck. He can design a suspension for an Ultra 4 car. This was a project that I would recommend, if you have skills and be able to pick up a van and put it back down safely. you can go for it. We ran into the muffler interfering with leaf spring on the passenger side. And the story goes, I crawled out and said, Paolo, you're going to have to cut the exhaust. Oh, no.
I was like, no way.
So,
and we had to cut the box as well. But
yeah.
so we had a few
So we
issues.
had the ability to TIG weld an exhaust, you know. And so, you know, if you run into that unexpected problem,
Hey.
I hope you get to meet the dogs.
They have already. Enough.
If you run into that unexpected problem and you don't have the ability to get over that bump, then your van's apart for a couple days.
Yeah. So make sure that you look at the video that I'm doing with this. And the interesting part is that when I asked Chris, I was like, hey, Chris, how hard is it going to be? He's like, well, send me the instructions. And I sent him the instructions. And this is the instructions to do this work. It is a lot. There's even blood on it. There's a lot of instructions here. And he answered after I sent him the instructions, oh, too easy.
Too easy.
So
yeah.
Would you say it's too easy again?
If I was hanging out at a race in the pits with the boys, it's too easy. If I was hanging out with Paolo on the beach in Baja, I would say you'd have to have your shit together to do this kit. Another issue we ran into was removing the shackle bolt. We had to cut the box, so I had the ability to make a really nice cut and epoxy it back in, and that was an unforeseen bump also. So you got to be ready to tap dance when you tackle these projects.
Overall, though, all the lift kits or aftermarket suspension that I've put on as far as kits, DIY, I'd say 9.5 out of 10. I think it's fairly easy. Get ready to weld or cut an exhaust or something like that, which would be like really the only hurdle. If you were doing this in your garage and had a couple days to get a new bolt, cut the bolt out, you wouldn't have to cut the box or anything like that. So as far as having all the parts and bolts and everything, I mean, it's actually a pretty well-rounded kit. And DIY, absolutely. Main thing, make sure you have your van secure. Don't drop it on you. Make sure you have stuff to lift it and hold it. Other than that, if it's in your garage and you have time, then, you know, cutting a bolt and ordering a new bolt, I don't see an issue with it. I think if you have basic shop tools to a degree, I think you can really get it done and be ready for the exhaust, like Chris said. But other than that, I think most people, if they have any shop knowledge or mechanical knowledge,
guys,
hopefully be able to read the instructions and get it done.
Sure.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks, Guy. And we are going to show now the video on how we did this.
Play with the dogs.
And play with the dogs. So everything comes into these 4 boxes that now I took all the packaging out, but very nicely, it was all very nicely packed. And this is it. This is a whole kit plus the springs. And let's go check out the springs. Here are the springs, and as you can see, they're probably 2 times, if not more, beefier than the stock ones, and that's how we're gonna take care of that sag. So we are measuring right at the corner here of the rear, and we're gonna get, Astor is trying to help me with the nose. So right now, right at the corner there, we are at 20 inches. So I'm curious to see when we are done with the lift and see how high we are. So 20 inches right now. Chris just removed the spare tire. So Chris was telling me how people get smashed underneath these rigs when they raise them and they don't support them properly. So getting a good support is going to be very important here.
It's the big wrestle.
These things look pretty burly, that is for sure. So yeah, now we're just prepping to get a good support, and we're gonna start with the back, and we'll remove that those leaf springs. Chris and Kate used 2 jacks to lift the rig, one on the hitch, even though it's not a recommended spot from Mercedes, and one on the pumpkin, and that way they lifted the rig simultaneously with 2 jacks. Whatever you use, make sure that everything is rated for the weight of the rig, especially your support. During the installation, we kept all the jacks engaged as well as the support, so we had 4 points keeping the rig up. So make sure that you have that jack not on the
we're there.
on the back of that pumpkin. That's where a lot of people bend those, and then you get a leak down there.
Pro tip: don't take a bunch of wrenches under the car with you. You'll never find the one you need. Crescent wrenches, you can't go wrong.
I want to talk about removing the wheel caps here. That took us a little bit of figuring out. They have fake bolts, or whatever these guys are called, and just 2 real ones on the top and on the bottom. So you have to unscrew these 2 and then it comes right off. So don't try to unscrew any of the other ones because it will not work. Removing the tires. We have some very beefy posts here to hold it up, and that's really what you want to be careful. You don't want to be crushed underneath your rig as you're working on it. And then we have just this smaller jack just to support the pumpkin. And again, make sure that you support it right there and not at the edge there, because you're gonna crack that cover there, and a lot of people have done that. Right, she is off the ground.
So while these pictures look complicated, you just can't really visualize everything that's on there. They just have tires on there. It's a dark picture, but you know, once you get everything off, that bolt is right there, shock right there. I mean, it's really pretty simple. You know, you undo these bolts. Those are the sway bar bolts that run along it. It's all relatively just straightforward. It's like a big Lego set. Once you get these out, it's not that I think I'm going to lose the bolt as a whole, but whenever you have them all jumbled together in a bin or something, or trying to separate them, remembering exactly which one goes where is always tight. So while I'm not using it, I'll just slide it back in. Light little screw on it so I don't lose the nut, it doesn't come out, and whenever we come back to put it back together, that's where it'll be.
Disconnected the shock there. We are now going to remove the actual sway bar, and I'm going to follow Kate around here and what it looks like right now. We have the pumpkin supported by this jack, and then there is that sway bar, those bolts that were holding the sway bar, and that's it. And then we remove that bottom shock connection. I want to show these springs really quickly, how thin they are in comparisons of the ones that we are going to be installing. And when the rig was standing there, these springs were inverted. That's how much weight was pushing on them. We are about to remove the springs, so we'll see how difficult this is.
You always want to make sure when you're undoing the leaf springs here, undoing these big U-bolts, that you have the axle lightly supported. That way, because if not, once these come undone, it's just going to drop the axle out and max out your drive line and break stuff.
So he just dropped the pumpkin, and hopefully we can get low enough. And there we go. God, barely made it.
Just barely.
All right, so there we go. Remove that piece, whatever that thing is. That was sitting right there.
So next, we're going to undo the front of the leaf spring and hopefully just this upper shackle bolt, and we'll be able to pull this whole thing out and just leave it attached to the old one because we have new shackles that are going to go in here.
There she goes. There's your spring. Easy peasy. So Chris is gonna remove this front bolt holding the spring, and meanwhile we're having a little issue with one of the bolts that looks like we have to cut it, but we don't see the bolt in the kit.
So what's going on here with this lift system for Palo is when you remove the rear springs, this is the nut side, and so the bolt has to slide that way. Running into compartment boxes, same scenario back there on the rear of that spring, runs into the water compartment. So we're figuring this out right now.
Your fans can see what's happening.
Oh yeah, so here we go, look at that. So we pulled it out and it gets kind of jammed right there. So Chris just removed that front connection of the shock, and we are trying to manhandle this other side to get the bolt out.
Looks like he's getting close now. I got it wedged up in there.
Alright, we got it out, which was not an easy task. I missed the moment, but they manhandled it and they got it out. This is definitely a little bit of a tricky move here, and it'll be interesting to see how we're gonna get that thing back in, because it's a little bit jammed there now. But we got it out. There's that spring that just came out.
So what happened was this bolt in the rear driver shackle wouldn't come out because of this box. We still had about a 1/4 inch in there. But the sleeve inside the bushing of the shackle isn't the true width. So you're able to push it all the way to one side. Make sure you have your direction right. And I can pry this bolt up for that way the end of the bolt that's in there is kind of at an angle. And I can kind of just really pry on this bushing and get it to slide past this to where now it's actually back in where it needs to be in the shackle. So we're able to save the bolt, not have to cut it or beat on this or anything too much. Just a lot of prying and manhandling. Hopefully everything's exactly like this one, or even a little over would help. But it's in.
So here's the shackle before it was installed. And now this shackle is gonna have to go in there, and we'll see how we can get that one up there. So here is Kate trying to get the other side out now. This one seems a little bit more difficult to get out because it is not moving as much as the other one. There's not as much play. So we'll see if he's going to be able to manhandle this one as well.
When you get these kits, it's pre-install. So if you're in cold weather, you want to roll it over here, and it is right now. But if you want a little more performance, stiffer ride until it stops. Soft, cold, performance. We're going to keep this on performance because it's recommended anything over 11,000 pounds. This we'll get to later.
Alright, we're pulling the old shocks out, and we have already removed the bottom part. And now we're just gonna remove that top bolt there that is connecting the top of the old shock. Holding shit. That's the way to do it. So Chris is about to remove this emergency mounting spacer, and we need to remove this in order to mount the lower section of the shock.
The emergency brake cabling is run into the new shock.
Ooh, that thing went into the grate there.
Yeah, that nut will be gone forever. But luckily, the new kit comes with a new bolt.
Oh, good.
And there's a spacer that will go in and keep this stuff out of the way of the new shock. So we'll be right back.
Okay.
So with the new kit and when your new fancy shocks go in, you're going to need to move the passenger side brake cabling out of the way. So, new bolt, new spacer. You got to make sure this pin falls into its counterpart.
Remember that we can't hear you if you don't speak loudly.
You want to do it again?
No, I think they can see it. Astro is like licking my face as I'm doing this.
Astro's the best helper in the shop. He provides therapy and understanding when you need it.
And face licking.
Totally. Okay, now I'm going to tighten it up.
You guys got it.
Okay, I told Paolo I wanted a cup of coffee before he put a hole in his new 2026 Sprinter Ekko.
So yesterday we spent a couple hours trying to find the bolt here in the Cortez area. Nobody carries this. Apparently it's very specialized. And since I'm not a mechanic, I don't really know much about that stuff. But we're going to have to cut the box because Chris is going on a job on Monday and we have 2 days to do this job. So keep that in mind if you're doing this. So as you see here, B, see image below for reference, optical VC replacement bolt kit is available. And that's what this is. So if you are doing this installation on a Spreco, you will need this bolt. Or you're going to have to cut the box like we're doing right now. Alright Chris, you ready to cut my beautiful brand new 2026 Winnebago Ekko?
I'm close.
You are close.
I am close. I'm measuring 6 times and cutting 4.
Alright, so that's where we're going to be cutting, the box, right there. Yep. Bummer, bummer, bummer,
And then
bummer.
we'll fab up some aluminum, make a brake, put it here with aluminum or rivet holes in it, and then we'll lay it in a bed of neat epoxy and then rivet it through from the other side. And then back up top, we'll put a new floor vinyl liner in the bottom, and it'll look great.
So, a lot easier to get this kit. So here we go. The beautiful hole that Chris cut so that we could get the bolt out. Fortunately, we were able to keep the inside intact. So it wasn't too bad after all. I mean, it's still kind of bad, but it's... There we go. That's to get a bolt out. Don't do what we did. All right, beautiful, beautiful. We got that spring out. I couldn't film it because I was helping Chris. But now he's putting in the leaf spring. Where? Hold on. Where is it? There it is. The leaf spring shackle. You gotta grease up that bushing face. So we got one spring in, and unfortunately I couldn't film it because I had to help move this thing around, and it was some manhandling to get this thing in here. And now we've got one side in, everything is loose, so we're just kind of like making adjustments, and we're gonna go and work on the other spring now to make sure everything lines up.
Get the other side fixed as well. It'll be squared up to the frame. Okay. Start putting together the shocks and the sway bar assemblies.
We ran into a little issue here. There is a clearance problem with this driver's side spring. It's hitting the muffler. So we're gonna have to cut the muffler there where Chris is getting that paper there, and we are gonna have to shorten this pipe so that this section here moves forward, and then hopefully we can swing this bracket forward and then clear the muffler. So that was a little unexpected, and it sure puts a little twist on the whole project. Chris is a pro, man, at cutting things. He did this by hand with a Sawzall. So here we go. We got both springs in. We got that cut muffler that Kate will be welding. And then the other side is also all in. So we are moving forward on this after a little bit of a stopping point, or a couple of stopping points. Chris is getting a little organized here. What are you doing with those parts?
Orienting myself, getting ready to install the bump stops. So you'll have some aftermarket or original parts that you're going to remove. And then these are in there pretty good. So you got a brake torque on these. We're going to remove these bolts and set up for a future installation momentarily.
I am setting the U-bolts on the spring here, and you want to put these spacers here. And I am not a mechanic, so I'm not sure how you call this. We've got that spring in there. We've got the U-bolts and the spacers, and everything lines up. So make sure when you place the springs is that you have the right side facing back and the right side facing forward. And there's a pretty good diagram on the instructions. Make sure that you follow that. Now we tighten everything down. Chris is installing the sway bar. It really is 4 bolts to install this.
On these tall vehicles like this, there's a lot of concentrated energy that ends up in these bushings. And so if you guys are doing washboard roads, like 2 years down the road, you'd want to look at these bushings to see if they're deformed or if they're behaving right.
So Cade has all this pipe kind of attached here for his welding, and he's going to be welding underneath so that he doesn't have to remove the whole muffler. That will be fun to watch. Here is that beautiful weld that Cade just did, and he's now fixing. We actually reutilized the original bracket, and do you want to say something about that weld for people if they decide to do their own weld?
Yeah, I mean, either turn your MIG welder really, really, really low, or learn how to TIG weld. I opted to TIG weld it. It's real dirty on the inside, so it makes it hard to TIG weld it. And it's like, you know, galvanized steel, so there's not much you can do. But if you have it too hot, then it'll just blow a hole in it, and then it's better to TIG weld it anyway. So for me, I would recommend just TIG weld it if you can. You can control everything. It's a lot easier. It's hard to get under there, but a lot more precise with heat and material.
Cool.
So,
thank you.
New exhaust. We're ready.
Yeah, sweet. Nice. Looks beautiful. Looks gorgeous. So I just moved it maybe, God, 4 inches forward. And then that spring is going to compress. So it's going to go up a little higher. And there's that weld right there. Here's the installation of the sway bar. And you've got this bracket that you have to install right here.
Okay, what's going on here is this bracket slips down between your axle and the sway bar. First thing, you may want to take a router and open up these holes because the powder coating closed the tolerances of the bolts. So, and then also, as we go under here, we have the sway bar just hanging.
And so now we can slip this in between the axle and the sway bar. Those mounting holes will line up really nice.
Feel me.
Okay, so what I was referring to, let's make a point of this, let's leave it a little loose, but we can get all these snug down because they have the wax nuts and they're kind of self-torquing, but they're tough to get all the way to the bottom. Now, you can see the sway bar is hanging loose. We did this to the other side. So we can drop it in here. And then the reason why we left it loose is because you want to make sure that this solid steel block is resting firm on the axle. Now we can tighten up the details.
Let's see if I can get back there to show better. Yep, there we go. You can see it there. There we go. There we go. All right, go ahead and tighten it. We are installing the rear shocks, and a good easy way to see which way they go is you want to have that logo facing the tire well, and you know which one goes left and which one goes right, and then the knob is in the front because you're gonna have to access that knob. There's 2 bolts, one on the bottom and then one on the top. The one on the top goes all the way across here where Chris, yep. So that's, Chris is pointing at that spacer there that you have to install to move that shock over a little bit. So the driver's side shock is a little bit more straightforward because it's only bottom bolt there, and then top bolt, we haven't tightened it yet, and again that logo has to be facing forward, and then we are gonna connect that as well. Now it's time to tighten everything. We got a million bolts now that we're gonna have to tighten, but that's it. That was the end of the thing. We're gonna put those tires on and drop this baby. That would be so awesome. Alright, we gotta put 125 pounds of torque on everything now, and it is not there. Oh shit, there we go. That one, I guess I was really close already, but man, it's grunt work. But you gotta do every bolt at 125, so I'm gonna keep going at this. There we go. We got everything tightened to 125 pounds, and now we gotta lift up the rig a little bit more because we got a little bit of height from the new spring, so that's kind of exciting. All right.
Too easy.
Too easy. We just dropped the rig on the rear new suspensions, and I can already tell that it is standing up higher. We have lost that sag that we had, and actually it seems like we're actually a little bit up high on the rear there, which we'll have to look into. But now we are gonna do the front. There's the jack points right here for the front. So the first part of the front bumper is pretty simple. You got to remove all of these push pins. There is a bunch of them here, and then I already removed them, all these bolts, and every little piece that secures this front fender cover, and everything is marked very well on the instructions, so it's extremely easy to do. And now I'm going to be removing this panel. Alright, Chris is going to remove the panel. Yeah, you want to start from the back, and start from there, and then you want to get it out of there from the back, and then you pivot. Yep, all of that, starting from that edge all the way until you get to the... Oh, you still have one? No. Yeah, that's good. Now push that down. There we go. Now you're gonna pull it all out. There we go.
Oh no.
And then you do the same thing on the other side. Very easy. So this is what it looks like here after you removed the covers, and we've got this jack right here, but we are all still supported underneath, so we'll probably lower it a little bit just to stabilize everything. And Cade is already working on the next steps. Really helps to have an iPad where you can actually see the picture in color right next to your workspace. Pro tip! I'm doing a pro tip. So Cade just removed he's gonna remove the sway bar links. Alright, Chris is removing the sway bar links here as well. So we're gonna be removing this piece right here. And this is that piece after it was removed on the other side. Here's the dry fitted lower bracket for the shock. We haven't tightened it yet, but basically you keep the original ones here loose. You replace the bottom ones right there. So those are replaced with new ones. And then back here, you have this nut through here. And the bottom has the head, and you want to put a washer up on the head. So that is the lower bracket, and we're going to tighten everything up and move on. So we pop the hood, and there is that where that driver's side nut tab goes. So this gives you a little bit better idea. You put that in there, and then it bolts through. Right. Let's see, where's my hand? Bolts through right here. So the tab is right behind this, and that's where for the top bracket.
Okay, these refrigerant lines are on plastic clips, so pop them all off first, and then spin the clips and they'll pop out. Also, the fender well tool, use that on these. They were down here. That's a 10 millimeter to take, I don't know what these hoses are. And now we're ready to fit the upper, which fits beautifully right in there. You can see what's going on.
Very nice. The wiring on the driver's side, you just had to push this one down because it was in the way of the bracket. So this here is a little tricky. You gotta work this little piece here behind into this slot, and then it's gonna tie in to that bolt right there. So we'll watch Chris if he's got little princess hands to do this.
We're going to Baja.
Did you do it?
Yeah.
Wow. Nice job. Nice job.
Okay.
There it goes. Princess hands right there. Look at that. There it is. That little tab right in there. And I want to point out that when I removed the spare tire, I realized that spare tires sizes don't match the actual tires. Right here we have LT 215 85 R16, and this should be 245 75 R16 KO2s, which is a little bit of a bummer. I'm gonna have to purchase new tires because I'd like to have some matching tires for my spare tire. Just an FYI. I'm recording.
The bolt Paolo is holding has a hole behind it. We're talking about the passenger side, but you do need to take the 3/8 drill bit and open it up. On the left hand side of the upper shock mount, you'll have to drill that hole completely.
So yeah, we are gonna drill the second hole right there on the rib, and go ahead, Chris. Yikes. So we drilled that one hole, and again this other one right here. And this is the passenger side. Here's the view of the driver side, both brackets, top and bottom. And there you go. Now we're gonna install the shocks. Time to get the shocks in. You want to get that bolt down at the bottom, and then you want to remove this top, and the bracket is going to be sandwiched in between those two rubber, and then you got to compress it down, which it is not easy.
Yeah. Where's the bushing?
Yeah. Bushing, that's what it's called.
That goes in there?
There is that shock installed into the top bracket and lower bracket. And again, little detail here that goes like in between the two grommets. Here's a new bumpati here. You have to remove the old one and replace it with this guy. Just one bolt at the bottom there. Here's the fender after the cut. Not the fender, but the liner after the cut. Here's the fender right here with the cut. We're trying to figure out why it is done this way, but we're thinking that maybe so that you can reach the bolts in there and tighten them. But fits pretty nicely.
We're sprinter vanning. We're going to Baja.
What do you say, Chris? That's the last bolt.
Yes. Time for a piece of Nicorette gum.
Here are the measurements post shock mod, and we are at 24.5.
Threading the needle. Ford versus Mercedes.
Baja, here we come. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe, like, comment, because that's how you can support my channel, and I can keep producing this content.